learning more about Monday's deadly shooting at a mosque in San Diego, California.
This case just escalated because investigators are no longer only looking at the deadly attack at the Islamic Center in San Diego.
At least 3 people watched the live stream of the 2 gunmen before and during the attack that killed 3 people.
Now they're looking at the digital crime scene.
The 2 teenagers began a Signal video chat. She's recording it with another device and is on a Discord video call. And so the Signal video call is being transmitted on Discord.
The live stream, the video calls, and the people watching in real time.
So the entire attack was broadcast. We know of at least 3, but likely many more people watched it live. And certainly hundreds of thousands eventually saw it on multiple gore sites where it was posted. It even made its way to Instagram, Mugo, and the algorithm was feeding it to people who consume this content.
And the question that changes this entire investigation, if people saw this happening live, why did somebody call 911 immediately?
At that point, someone else on Discord tells others, hey, take a look at this. And someone responds, tell her to call police. Bro, tell her to call police. Several minutes later, he types in, they've already killed themselves.
You had 3 people are now dead. Security guard is now being credited with helping save lives, and 2 teenage suspects are no longer with us.
Well, there's very little that we can know because on Discord, the name that you're using, it's not even always your actual username. Yeah. You're in a chat room, and so there are various ways to disguise yourself. And
investigators are now digging through phones, accounts, deleted messages, and online interactions, trying to answer a fundamental question that every veteran investigator immediately asks in a case like this.
She appeared to be on East Coast time, so 3 hours later than the attackers, and people were even commenting about that. It doesn't matter if she's not in LA, she can still, maybe the police can still find these guys. So while at least one user did express alarm, it's unclear if anyone actually did call the police of those people who were watching this play out live.
Who knew what and what was about to happen?
This is the Hill of Justice.
I'm Jerome Hill, former officer and state investigator, and with me is retired Sheriff Victor Hill. We're going deep into the attack with this live stream, and it being the digital witness and the other digital witnesses that were watching this. This extremist warning signs that were going on and the legal questions that people across the country are asking right now. Can somebody be charged for watching a violent crime online and failing to notify authorities? Because this case becomes one of the more important questions in regards to this digital era that we find ourselves in and how it meshes with criminal investigations that we're seeing as we keep on matriculating down these online crimes that we see. And let me say this clearly right now, and just as full disclosure, we're not going to glorify these attackers. We're not going to go ahead and replay graphic footage. We're not here for this to be a spectacle. We are here to understand how this violence evolves in this digital age. And because what happened here is bigger than one crime scene, we're going to investigate it as real investigators. This is about the collision between violent extremism and, once again, about online validation, live streaming culture that we exist in right now, and audience psychology. And the most dangerous part of this entire case may not be what happened on camera. It may be what happened before the camera ever went live. So, brother, this is the escalation that we find ourselves in. And let's start with what changed. At first, this looked like a tragedy, and it was just tragic. But we looked at this being a familiar active shooter investigation, a house of worship, targeted violence, extremist ideology, and sadly, teen suspects. But then the investigators learned that there were live streams and live video calls connected to this attack. It changed the whole calculus. You were able to go ahead and take a look a little bit of this. What was some of the things that stuck to your mind?
Well, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. we got a lot of weirdos in the judicial system that they pretty much killed proactive policing or problem solving policing, whatever you want to call it. But I prefer to call it proactive policing because, you know, there's two styles of policing where you put some people out there in patrol cars and they basically sit and wait for something to happen and they respond to it. And that's what's going on in a lot of different places. But then you got certain areas like when we were brought up, we had to literally drive every street in our district and look for things to prevent it from happening or catch it in the act of happening. That's a lost art. So why did I say that about this? Okay, two teenagers just don't wake up one day and get crossbows and rifles or whatever they had and start killing. There's a whole lot that had to transpire. There were clues out there. There was handwritings on the wall that I'm sure the parent should have seen. And one of them, to her credit, called, but by the time she called, it was too late. She probably should have called a long time ago or tried to get these kids some type of committed or help or something like that. But usually in these situations, we see it time and time again. There's ranting, ravings, writings, going to certain meetings, doing, things being said online. And when that type of thing happens, we got to really keep reminding the public, see something, say something. We live in times where there's this idiotic mentality about snitching. And I ask people when they come up with that stupidity, if someone killed your mother, your sister, and someone knew who did it, would you want them to tell? Because that's snitching. All right. Or if someone saw something that could have prevented your mother or sister from being killed, would you want them to have said something? Or would you rather them keep some stupid code that the dummies who made it up, they don't even abide by and lose a loved one? So if the police is able to have units that actively look for this, and I used to have a person assigned to social media, and his job was to look for things in the county that's odd, and we actually found it. We found guys posing with guns and stuff like that. Then you find out who they are. You go see them. Are these guns real? Are they stolen? Where did you get all of these automatic guns from? And we were able to prevent some things. And the one time we wasn't able to prevent it is when I told my guys to look into it, and they were like, well, it's a cross investigation. They're already looking at them for something. I said, well, tell them to hurry up because these guys can kill somebody. And guess what? They did. And it was held up just because they were already looking at them for some possible drugs. But almost every day they're posing with all these guns. And I was like, we need to find out what this is about because these guys may end up hurting somebody. And sure enough, they end up killing a man.
Sure.
So if we start doing that type of policing, we'll see less and less of these incidents. It's almost like national intelligence where you got intelligence agency building intelligence on potential threats. And then you've got to actually take action. You got to send Navy SEALs out to do things to stop them from carrying out potential threats. Well, it's no different in policing. But you got these pro-criminal, pro-weirdo type prosecutors and judges. Well, you can't do that. You can't do this, whatever. And they're handcuffing law enforcement from going out and being more proactive and more aggressive to stop this stuff. And then, of course, you got this group of people, well, I'm not a criminal. What you checking me for? Okay, well, we have to check everyone and eliminate them so we can get to the criminals. It's a mild inconvenience, but wouldn't you rather us do this than to have 3 dead bodies?
We're looking at investigators are, not only dealing with a physical crime scene, but we're dealing with a digital crime scene. And digital crime scenes create all types of additional investigative questions.
And I guarantee you there's more digital than just what happened that day. I guarantee you they were already making videos or saying things online that should have been a telltale sign that these guys are involved in something that an eye needs to be kept on them. Maybe you need to do a knock and talk.
Yeah.
Right.
When we take a look at the digital footprints, who joined the stream, who watched, who interacted, who encouraged it, who screenshot it, who recorded, who shared, who delayed the reporting, who recognized it was real. And most importantly, who had enough information to potentially prevent additional harm. And that changes everything with this. Now, if we were to take a look at this, slow this down, because people online are already jumping to conclusions. Some people are saying that every viewer should be arrested. Nah, let's stop. Others are saying nobody who watched it did anything wrong. The truth is much more complicated than that. And this is where actual investigation reasoning matters.
Well, to their credit, when people first started watching it, they probably were confused of whether it was real, a skit or not. Because it's probably unbelievable to think. I haven't seen it. I'm not sure what's on it. Mm-hmm. But if they're streaming it, I'm sure someone's watching is probably trying to figure, is this real or not? Now, once they realize it's real, I agree. Common sense should say, hey, the authorities know about this. Let's dial 911. But, we've got a strange culture. Now, cameras used to be something you used to go and buy, but everyone has a camera now. Everybody has a video recorder in their phone. And there's more video going on than intervening. Now, don't get me wrong. Every situation is different. If it's somebody's grandmother and they see something, certainly she can't jump in and stop 20 or 25-year-olds from doing something. So maybe her best bet is to get video evidence and call the police so we can get there. But then this comes up to the other question. Are you videoing or are you dialing 911? Because you can't do both at the same time. Now, both is good when it comes down when we get there. We got proof and somebody called us so we could get there. But we're seeing more videoing than anything else. And people are literally getting raped, robbed, and murdered while people are just filming it instead of doing something. If you can't intervene because you're not physically capable, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But at least dial 911.
Right. You should do that at the very least. And one of the biggest mistakes that the public makes is assuming investigators begin with conclusions. They don't, okay? Good investigators begin with these type of questions. They're inductive
good investigators.
Right.
I'm glad you said that, right? Because they're not all good, but keep going.
You're right. You collect the details, you build these patterns, you identify probabilities, then you test them. And that's a lot of people, if you're talking about good investigators, they do that. Other ones, they just let it exist and let it keep on going. So these are the type of investigators that are likely asking these type of questions. Did the viewers think that this was fake? That's what you just brought up. Did they believe that this was a role play? That's a possibility too. Did somebody recognize a real location? We got to look at that too. Did the viewers encourage the suspects? Did anybody warn the suspects that police were responding? Did anybody help the evidence afterwards? These questions matter legally. And then we got to go ahead and take a look at the deductive reasoning afterwards, because that works a little bit different. And we start with the known principles, right? For example, right? If a person knowingly assists a violent felony, then that could create criminal liability. That's a no-brainer, right?
Right.
If a person intentionally conceals evidence after a crime, that can create liable, all this type of liability. If a person participates in planning or encourages, that can create the liability too. So just merely witnessing a crime online does not automatically make this somebody guilty of something. And oftentimes people want to think that.
And it probably doesn't in most cases. Let me tell you why. The one thing that's been thrown completely out of the legal community, because now it's not really about the law, it's about who they want to prosecute and who they don't want to prosecute, but willful intent. When I look at crimes, did this person have the willful intent to commit a crime? Right. If something happened, it was an accident. They didn't willfully get up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to kill somebody. They may have been negligent. They may have made a mistake, but it's not a murder. It's involuntary manslaughter. So when these people cut on their phones, and it's easy to cut your phone on, and all of a sudden a live stream pops up. And sometimes people just live streaming and talking, or sometimes they're live streaming and you're like, what exactly are they doing? You just don't know, because people are trying to get attention any way they can and views up. But was it their intent? You know what? I'm going to sit here and watch this guy kill people, and I'm going to make sure that nobody knows about it so he can kill more. Mm-hmm. That's what you got to look at. And that's what's not really being looked at on a lot of crimes. Was there willful intent? And it should be mandatory. But we know that with a lot of prosecutors, that doesn't exist. If a prosecutor thinks that he can get brownie points with whoever he's trying to get brownie points with, they'll prosecute something crazy like that. But how do you find out? How do you know how many people happen to look at their phone? How do you even prove that they were even? Sometimes I cut my phone on this live streaming, and then I put it down. I'm not even paying attention because something else is happening. I don't even know what they're saying or doing.
Right.
I think what we really need to concentrate on is all of the clues and all of the things they may have done before this even happened. Have they ever gone live and talked about their hatred for a religion that they obviously know nothing about or not really educated on? Because if they are educated on it, we know that all people of that religion are not terrorists. So there's no reason to just go and start shooting people of a certain faith. So, I think there are a lot of clues out there way beyond that.
Initially.
Responsible people, if you're looking at prosecuting anybody, look at prosecuting them. But a person that just happened to cut on their phone and they see a live stream and they're not sure what they're looking at, I don't know about that.
Right. Because you would have to have some supporting evidence with that, like aiding and abetting. You would have to have messages, some voice communications, chats, call logs. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Recorded statements, digital timestamps that put you all into this. It's just not just looking at that. Was there a conspiracy involved in some type of way? We're talking about a little bit of what you're talking about even before the live stream comes along. That's going to go ahead and put them in the pot, and then we get to take a look at the failure to report. That gets a little bit difficult and complicated because in most parts of the United States, ordinary citizens generally do not have a broad legal duty to rescue or report crimes. A lot of people don't know that. And that surprises people. Morally, many people think they should. Legally, the law is just a little bit more narrow than that. However, there are exceptions. Okay, some states have specific reporting obligations under certain circumstances. You and I have been mandatory reporters. We're probably still mandatory reporters because of our skill sets. Okay, there are certain crimes that happen. We must talk about. We must go ahead and explain. We must go ahead and let the authorities know about. That's a duty of every single citizen, here in the United States. But we must, because we know better.
Right.
And if someone actively obstructs any type of reporting or interfered with an emergency response, that changes all the analysis too. Obstruction of justice, we're getting into that. If someone deleted evidence, warned the suspects, hey, they're coming, hidden, communications, destroyed devices, or lied to the investigators, guess what? You're in the pickle. This is what's going to happen to you.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
So those are some of the things that we're talking about here today.
Right, and that mandatory reporter thing probably needs to be expanded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, I think because especially since we got a idiot subculture of no snitching, but I think that if there's a mandatory reporting that all citizens have to do, if you see a violent crime in progress, if you have information and you don't report it, and that can help push us through that, because it's an amazing amount of crimes now that aren't being solved because people are like, well, I don't want to tell anybody until that person comes knocking on their door.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't want my son involved telling who killed that kid down the street, but if somebody kills him, I want somebody to talk.
Yeah.
And that's the type of stupidity that's going on out there now.
Right. And I think one of the distinctions that we should make is that we can tell a terrified teenager freezing during a shocking live stream. Hell, we've seen it in our careers where we have grown ass adults freezing who are next to us, and we have to go ahead and tell them, sit this out. We'll take care of things from that end of it. We know the difference between that. So do investigators, so do prosecutors, and more importantly, so do the juries.
And this is the thing, and some people, they just don't want to get involved. But I remember when I was in homicide, as bizarre as this sounds, a man died in front of a Waffle House. And he was in that car about 5 days. And I think it was on the 5th day. You know how you got these regular customers that they're there every day at a certain time. And he just happens to tell the waiter, he said, man, that guy is every day I come, he's sleeping in the car. And I think they just finally figured out, I don't think it was intentional, but the guy was like, it's just strange. Every time I come here, he's sleeping in the car. Well, he's just dead for 5 days. Mm-hmm. And then the person in the car said, well, that car hasn't moved. And finally, someone had the bright idea to call. And of course, now you got a guy, you open the car and you know what it's like after 5 days. But it's interesting. Now, it's an odd situation because I'm sure the guy that came every day and saw him sleeping in the car wasn't like, hey, I don't care or whatever. But it wasn't until about the fifth day he thought to himself, that's kind of odd. That guy's been sleeping there this whole time. And then the waiter had to explain, well, that car hasn't moved. Nobody was just paying attention.
Right.
But when they finally put it together, you know what I'm saying? And you would think, okay, well, perhaps maybe a day later, somebody would have said something. So again, if we get back to willful intent, I don't think it was any intent on their part. But it's amazing that things people see, and then they're like, well, I don't want to disturb anybody. I don't want to knock on the window. I don't want to call the police because it's probably nothing.
Right.
And the one time you don't do it, it is something.
Yeah. When we talk about live streaming in the digital age, this is the age actually that we can get so much information. I mean, we could go ahead and go onto the platform, get their records, subscriber data, IP logs. We can go and get their metadata, their cloud backups. I mean, we can extract things from their devices. We deleted message recoveries. We got that going on. Private group records. We can get that, screen recordings. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on. The trail, and in that trail, we can look at the behavioral map of what people were doing and try to reconstruct, who entered, who exited, who stayed, who interacted, who panicked, who laughed, who encouraged. We could get that all. It's amazing how so many people still having the camera on them just do not realize that they're being watched and their activity is being monitored. We see that on all types of social media platforms. When you look at something on the internet, you go ahead to your social media platforms and voila, what you were just looking at has just been introduced right back into your face. This is part of the digital age that we are in right now, and it's enormous. And it helps solve these cases, and it just multiplies. You know what it really does? It multiplies witnesses. In years past, maybe a camera is right there, so now you got 20. That's where we're at this point in time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That you're absolutely right. I can't deny that. That cell phone that everyone carries in their pocket is a huge digital footprint. Every place they've been, everyone they've spoken to, like I said, before the cell phone, back in the old days, they used to always teach us in homicide school, 9 times out of 10, when you find a dead body, look in his, they used to call it a little black book, and they say, and it's a good probability that the killer's name and address and phone number is right in that book. Because most people are killed by people they know. Well, nobody carries a little black book anymore. Everybody carries one of these. And it has more than just the phone numbers of friends and family and acquaintances. Everything is in it.
Yeah.
And everybody. How many times are we hearing about cases where wives go through their husband's phone or husbands go through their wives' phone looking for clues?
Right.
And
right.
because if there is something going on, there's a whole digital footprint right there.
Yeah, and we take a look at the psychology that these online offenders, especially for the ones who are violent, present, right? And, the audience becomes really part of the offender's emotional reward system because they're looking for validation. And that's what matters here. They are seeking to go ahead and destroy things, and they're seeking other people's acknowledgement of it. Guess what? You're right there, front and center of the crap show.
That's exactly right. But, again, let's not forget that we're talking about mental health issues. Obviously, these 2 teenagers had mental health issues. That's not normal behavior. And, back in the day, when you're doing investigations, you could look at notebooks or diaries and see all of these manifestos, for lack of a better term, where they're literally writing things and you could tell, okay, something's wrong. There's incoherent, we call it statement structure analysis. But now, like I said, those little notebooks are gone.
Mhm.
All of these things are being written on social media, being written inside the phones, and it can give you a real good, which at this point, because they took their lives, is a psychological autopsy, is what we used to call it, for lack of a better term.
Right.
And but no doubt, while they were still alive, I guarantee you there was some type of ranting and raving on social media, on a live
It
stream,
was
or
a manifesto.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And,
Right.
instead of talking about them, I want to talk about a hero. I want to talk about the security guard.
Mm-hmm.
And he is the most important. Yeah, he's the most important person in this whole entire case. This security guard, he was able to delay and distract the attackers. He helped save lives. And because these active, attackers, it's life and death. It really turns into survival. And people always think that heroism always looks dramatic. It doesn't have to be. It could just be 10 seconds. We saw this in the January 6th attack of the White House, of the Capitol building. And there was a forward-thinking individual that the mob was asking, where are the seated politicians? And the individual, which was a security guard, he pointed to a different direction than where the politicians were. And the mob went in that direction. That's what heroes look like. And they will always look like that. Sometimes it's a locked door. Sometimes it's just confusion. But it all matters. It doesn't have to be someone coming down like Superman or somebody coming down like Batman and saving the day that way. I'm letting you know it is just as much as a word or a simple point that can save people's lives. And he did that.
Yes.
So our hats are off to him and his family. And, I wanted to go ahead and recognize so much more than the attackers here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No greater love than a man who lays down his life for his fellow man.
Sure. So if we're going ahead, we took a look about some of the warning signs that these young people are just getting radicalized online. They're becoming isolated. They're many of them in years past when we were kids, we were outside playing and having a ball. Now they're in their rooms for hours and hours and hours, and their friends are from people most like what you and I are doing right now. They're not seeing each other. They may have never even met them or never will meet them. But these are these echo chambers that exist. And this is what this algorithmic escalation can turn into. And then what you'll find in that situation is these identity-based grievances that they all get together. And they're like, yeah, this happened, that happened, yeah. And you come to find out that nobody has, the proper sense, and it starts becoming, fantasy like, and it turns violent. Fantasies turn violent if you do not go ahead and modify that type of behavior. And this is extremely important. In these type of leakages and people, having these miscommunications. This is all the intent that you need before some violent act happens. And this is what we're seeing all over in the United States and not just here in the United States. It's all over the world. But predominantly us, we're a first world country where we have plenty. Everybody has computers. Everybody has cell phones. I mean, this is where we are. We've got to meet the moment where it's at.
I agree.
So we have those things coming up, and one of the things, I want to preface that not every angry teenager is going to be radicalized and do something ridiculous, but we do have to look at their behaviors. They're still, they're not adults yet. They're still forming their bodies, their minds. We have to do a better job as parents identifying some of the matters.
As parents and police, I agree. The parents need to, You just can't have kids locked in a room and you don't go and look and see what's in there.
Right.
They may have a gun. They may have pornographic material or something like that. They have to be monitored. What are they watching? What are they feeding their minds?
Right.
But also, we've got to have more digital policemen.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to. Like I said, I
think
had
so.
one.
Right. Yeah.
Right. That's constantly streaming social media in their area to see if there's anything of concern.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything's suspicious, then a good old fashioned knock and talk. I mean, like I said, we've had it happen before. We saw these kids on there holding guns or whatever. So we went to the house. Hey, man, are these your kids? Yes. Have you seen this? And they're looking shocked, like, I didn't even know you had guns. Now, this one was kind of funny. They were posing with guns. They were really BB guns, but their parents did not know that they were up there putting bandanas and posing with guns that look real. And I think those kids, they were shook that we were there, but good. But guess what? It stopped then. It taught the parents that, I guess I got to pay more attention to these kids. And of course, it was like, what the hell are you doing? And where you get these fake BB guns that look real? You're going to get yourself killed. But who knows what we prevented?
Right.
Because even though they couldn't do, actually, I've seen robberies with BB guns. If the victim doesn't know the gun isn't real, or whatever. But suppose they took those guns and brandished it to some folks that really got some guns that started shooting. Who knows what we prevented? But that was by having someone assigned to do digital police work.
Right.
Because you're going to have a group of local teenagers, a group of local lunatics or whatever that's online saying and doing all kinds of stuff. And when they find it, hey, we might want to go take a look and see what these folks doing.
Sure.
Right. And even if it's just a knock at the door and to let them know that we're paying attention, that can cause a 180.
Yes. Because a lot of these kids, they're disassociating from reality. And sometimes they need that jolt, they get detached and, they start getting into this group behavior and, their mentality starts slipping. And, and to them, it may be a normality to them, but we know that it's abnormal. And
and how many parents are not seeing what my guy saw that day, and then you screenshot it because not only you show it to the parents, but hey, if you can see the mental illness there, hey, listen, you might want to get this kid some help.
Yeah, then there probably needs to be some public campaign talking to people instead of being spectators. Why don't you become a responder when you see stuff online?
Absolutely. I think remember the documentary that you and I discussed, the one "Don't F with Cats."
Right.
But that's how that all got started. You know what I'm saying? Somebody observed a young man torturing a cat, and that's a clue. Because that's something that serial killers do, and sure enough, he turned out to be a serial killer.
Yes, he did.
But had they not got involved, unfortunately, he did kill people, and it was their work that actually caught him, or he probably would have done it longer. But just think, suppose there was more aggressive digital police work being done, and digital police work is going to require training in psychological profiling. So we know that people who torture animals, set fires, wet the bed, and we know that those are 3 common traits of serial killers. But if you got the right digital policeman out there and they've seen this type of stuff, hey, we got someone who might need to be watching.
Right.
And then you're being proactive and preventing people from becoming victims instead of responding to it.
Right. I want to probably end this conversation and episode with a warning. If you are in, and it doesn't matter, if you are in a place of worship, your congregation is now a target. That's what we live in now.
Yes.
If you do not have security there, if you do not have police there, consider yourself lucky if you got out of there alive on Sundays or whatever day of worship we're at that stage now.
And let me add to it, Jerome. We're at the point now where it's going to have to be real security there. It just can't be someone standing around. There has to be a real plan. First of all, everyone needs to be checked for weapons coming in there. And if a person is trying to rush that scene, like what we saw happen in DC. There has to be someone there prepared to stop them.
Right.
And, sad that we're at this point where, because people don't expect to go to church and have to go and be frisked or go through a metal detector. People don't, and we definitely never thought that they would come for schools, but it has to be a controlled environment. I mean, that's what they're doing at the games. We're going to have to do it at the churches and the schools and everything else. Of course, some schools are already doing it to some degree, but everyone has to be checked to make absolutely sure they don't have any weapons when they get in there. That's the only way you can be absolutely sure.
Right. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because somewhere tonight, another isolated teenager may already be inside another digital echo chamber, another private chat,
Yes.
another live stream. And what we're going to do is he's going to spiral, or she's going to spiral. And the next investigation may depend on whether somebody watching decides to stay passive, or decides to interrupt the chain before the violence begins.
And just like, the FBI used to have, and they probably still do, but they used to have investigators that would get online and pose as if though they were minors in order to catch people like that. And I think we're going to need undercover digital police to be going into these chat rooms and seeing what's being said.
Right.
I know people are going to go, Big Brother's watching. Well, guess what? Unless we want to see more of this, somebody better be watching.
That's true. Well, that's where we're going to land the plane today. We want to go ahead and tell many of you in Hill Nation, we are watching and looking at all your comments, your likes. Many of you are sharing our videos all over the place. We really do appreciate that. Brother, any final words?
No, I think you summed it up well. I think that all places of worship have to get very, very serious about security, but not just places of worship, every place, hospitals, whatever. Any target-rich environment has to have real security and a real security plan.
That's true. We'll leave it there, and we'll talk to you soon.
This is the Hill of Justice.